Is everybody having fun yet? Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. XRP is at $2.01, dropping as low as a $1.95 today as of the moment I'm recording this. Markets in pure chaos, so it's not just XRP, it's not even just crypto, it's not even just the stock market. It's pretty much everything, as I will be highlighting in this very latest Moon Lambo Hot Jam. The world is in fear, but I guess I'm not part of the world then because I'm sure as hell not in fear. It's just there are always moments in history where markets are just trembling and they absolutely pass. In fact, let me just show you this post I shared. I typed this up like a couple hours or so ago. I wrote this on X. Something always happens that's the end of the world for markets. Except that it's never true that it's the end of the world for markets. Remember FTX? Remember COVID? The tariff fears will eventually cease to exist for long-term investors. This is noise. And folks, as far as I'm concerned, the only reasonable way for the everyday person to invest, and I do consider myself in this category, is to do it for the long haul. And then when scary stuff happens and the typical lemming retail investors respond accordingly, just don't do it. And so I don't. I've been through tons of scary things, like quote unquote scary things here. But what do you think's going to happen? Like the world's going to cease to exist, every economy falls apart, and then we go back to cave dwelling? Like, is that what happens? Like all society ceases to exist. There is no infrastructure. There is no economy. Like, and then crypto's done. Like crypto's done. There's no stock markets anywhere on the planet. They're all just gone. Come on, this is stupid. This is short-term scare thinking. It doesn't matter. Eventually, markets will come rampaging back, and the people that understand this very simple concept, a lot of them are taking advantage of what's happening right now if they're in the buying type of mood now. So let's break this down. But suffice it to say, the market's not done. The market's not over. The crypto cycle, it's not over either. And XRP, I still firmly believe, is more likely than not, because I think this is true for the whole asset class, going to move to the upside. That means XRP hitting a new all-time high yet again, price discovery, all that jazz, face melting. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, as I record this video, it is 1:06 p.m. Central Time, Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. The end of the world, apparently. Again. So XRP at $2.01. It fell to that. It fell. Well, I mean, today it fell to a $1.95, but still, it fell to that. I'd love being able to say that. I mean, having held XRP as long as I have, to be able to say it fell to that, it's a really good feeling. XRP showing tremendous strength compared to the rest of the market continually over the last several months. Here you got Bitcoin, $81,549. Dropped as low as $80,975. So, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, if I flash back and forth between XRP and Bitcoin charts over the last 24 hours, you can see it's the same thing. So there's nothing unique about XRP that's causing it to go down, which means, given that fundamentals haven't changed, it really is the case that XRP, being a risk-on asset, is just getting pummeled. Now, there's more to it, and I'm going to talk about that in this video, because it's actually not even just risk-on assets that are taking a beating today. But being a risk-on asset is a factor. I mean, it's obviously the case that, XRP itself not directly impacted by tariffs. That specifically, XRP not hit by that, but because it is a risk-on asset, it still got pummeled along with everything else. But so there's more to it than that. But take a look at this. So here's a headline. This is from CNBC from this morning. Trump's tariffs risk a global trade war as leaders plan next steps. And so there are a number of things to this. I'm not going to literally go through everything. I think it's outside the scope of this video, but just know that the plan that was announced yesterday from Trump included a 10% baseline tariff across the board for every country on the entire damn planet, and then a reciprocal tariffs for every country. And my understanding from what I've seen, there's some exceptions to this for specific countries, but say that there's a 70% tariff imposed on the United States, then there would be half of that levied back at them. So instead of 70%, it would be 35%. And there's some additional nuances. If you're curious about it, just do a quick Google search. But this is what has set the world on fire. That's all you need to know for the purposes of this. And yeah, some wealth getting eliminated here. Take a look at this headline from Bloomberg. Trump tariffs wipe out $2 trillion from U.S. stock market. Whew, hot damn. People are scared. I understand it's not fun to have your net worth go down. Like, my net worth has gone down substantially today, and I'm laughing and having a good time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just be here on the good days and the bad days, understanding that the overall trend is up, and then you're fine. Like, that's the right mindset to have when it comes to investing in the stock market and crypto. Just have sufficient, diversification in these asset classes, and you should be fine. Like, that's just how it works. Anyway, piece reads as follows. Roughly $2 trillion was erased from the S&P 500 index on Thursday amid worries that President Donald Trump's sweeping new round of tariffs could plunge the economy into a recession. The damage was heaviest in companies whose supply chains are most dependent on overseas manufacturing. Apple Inc., which makes the majority of its U.S. sold devices in China, fell as much as 9.5%. Lululemon Athletica Inc. and Nike Inc., among companies with manufacturing ties to Vietnam, were both down more than 12%. Target Corp and Dollar Tree Inc., retailers whose stores are filled with products sourced outside the U.S., were trading lower by more than 10%. Okay, so it's a bloodbath, right? And these, by the way, I mean, if you're talking about the stock market, these are big percentage dips. Like, this is nothing in the world of crypto, but percentage drops like this in the stock market, that's noticeable, especially when you're seeing the entire stock market getting hit like this. Now, of course, fears of recession. Okay, do you know that the average recession only lasts about a year, and then it's not like the entire world falls into chaos, and it's not that everybody lose their job. It's that you're not exactly seeing positive growth for a short period of time. Like, it's even that, like, which it's going to happen from time to time. Markets got to correct from time to time. Even if that happens, and that's still an if at this point, even that's not the end of the world. All I'm saying is it doesn't make sense to be fearful in this moment. It just doesn't, unless you think the whole world's actually falling apart. But I would think that's a ridiculous perspective to have. So, crypto obviously hit. We saw this post also. This is from Eric Trump, Donald Trump's son, of course. And Eric Trump this morning wrote, "I wouldn't want to be the last country that tries to negotiate a trade deal with Donald Trump. The first to negotiate will win. The last will absolutely lose. I have seen this movie my entire life." So I read that and made me think to a video I watched from the Blockchain Backer this morning. He was actually kind of talking about this concept. Effectively, so with everybody getting slapped with these tariffs, if you come to the table and negotiate with Donald Trump, author of Art of the Deal, right? If you come to the negotiating table, what might happen? What if you reduce tariffs and the United States reduces tariffs, and then you'll have the entire United States market opened up to you. If you're one of the first movers, that's a big market that's available to you, right? And then on the flip side, maybe companies in the United States would be interested in, manufacturing stuff in your country, so on and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of moving parts to this. What he's getting at here, and this is probably the approach Donald Trump is taking here, is to as he sees it anyway, try and even things out. I'm not getting into the politics of this. I'm not interested for the purposes of this video anyway. But I could certainly buy the concept here that he does want to negotiate. I could absolutely buy this. And so the world's the key takeaway here, the world leaders that have a hand in making all these decisions, they're going to figure this out. It's just a messy process. It's messy. We're living through it. It's impacting our net worths. Yeah, of course, I got that. But it's going to get figured out. I mean, I was here, like I said earlier, right? I shared that post earlier. FTX, man, my net worth took a pummeling. Like the biggest pummeling that it's ever taken, probably, FTX, that I can think of off the top of my head. That might have been, I believe that was worse than even COVID. And COVID, my God, XRP crashed to 10 cents, and as it was going down, in fact, I wasn't able to buy the bottom because, you really realistically never can, but I bought XRP as low as 15 cents on that crash in March of 2020. That's the lowest I was ever able to buy XRP in my entire life here. And so it's always the end of the world. It's never going to turn around, except for it always turns around. And so this is just a messy process. It's down now. I mean, you're going to forget about this. Imagine another year out from here. Nobody's going to be thinking about this. Nobody's really going to be talking about this by then. We'll see how long it takes, and it could get messier before it gets better. Sure. But I don't think that this is something that's going to ruin our opportunities to be highly prosperous, let's say, in the world of crypto, and as XRP holders specifically. This doesn't even have anything to do with XRP and it went down. XRP fundamentals just keep getting stronger. Just understand these very basic concepts. You can understand why it doesn't make sense to be fearful here. So it really is to Donald Trump. It's just negotiating strategy here. To me, that seems very obvious. And again, people are going to just figure this out, though. Here's a post from the blockchain backer. He said, certainly going to be an interesting day. Equities obviously nosedive from the tariff announcement, but so has the dollar, DXY, the dollar index, down to 101.6. So have precious metals, with gold down $70 and silver down $2. And Bitcoin dominance is at the 702 retrace. Okay, so what's going to happen with Bitcoin dominance? Does it finally tank? Because usually what happens when it gets up to these types of levels historically, that's when it finally does tank, and then, alt season eventually gets set up. Are we getting primed for that? That's my question. Hopefully the answer is indeed yes. But isn't it also fascinating that at a time when risk on assets like crypto and stocks are taking a beating, isn't it interesting that gold also went down? Isn't that supposed to be the hedge against tumultuous times? Isn't that where people flee, when they're seeking safety? Isn't it interesting that that's down too? I would say yes. And so chart analyst Dom had an interesting take on this, and he's highlighting that it really isn't only about risk on assets. I would argue that it is. Like, obviously, tariffs don't specifically hit XRP or Bitcoin. That's not what this is. Obviously, we all understand that, right? But anything that's a risk on assets, it's all intertwined. If you're worried about your financial well-being and you happen to own some crypto, you might take some risk off the table. It just makes sense. Like, the people are going to respond like that. Now, I don't. I refuse to act like this. I don't care about timing the market. I'm going to live through all the best days and all of the worst days and not do anything, understanding that the overall trend is up. And then if I'm ever enticed to sell because it's worth so much, well, yeah, then I'll do that. But I'm not going to respond to scary news like this and get all freaked out. Like, it just doesn't change anything. Like, my day-to-day life, it's the same. Everything's fine. But anyway, so here's what Dom had to say. I thought this was a good take. He wrote, "We are seeing a policy-driven liquidation wave as nearly everything is down today." That's right. This is policy-driven. It's tariffs. He says that this isn't a risk-off in the usual sense. It's a repricing of global trade dynamics, supply chains, inflation outlooks, and monetary response due to tariffs. Bond yields are falling as traders price in a rapid slowdown in possible Fed cuts. The DXY is also falling, signaling loss of confidence in the U.S. rather than a typical flight to safety. These events usually hit hard and fast, as we are seeing. At this rate, a bottom in April could be on the table. Then either rebound hard or grind sideways until clarity returns. The question is, will the Fed step in? Rate cuts should have been done last month. Well, yeah, we'll see if that indeed happens. But the point is, and it's just given the intertwined nature of everything as it pertains to people's net worths and investing, yeah, it's all getting absolutely ravaged here. And still, it's seen what has happened to gold. That's been particularly fascinating to me. But the rest of it, like as far as risk on assets getting hammered, yeah, I mean, during times of uncertainty, of course, like that's par for the course. This should not be surprising to anybody. But again, not a time to be fearful. This is not going to be a thing that's going to persist. Can you imagine if Trump, can you imagine Trump actually, for his 4-year term, being in this state of chaos? You think that he'd allow that? I sure as hell don't. But and I know it's not just about him, but the world leaders negotiating here and setting terms and new normals, and we'll see, what ground Trump's even going to be willing to give up. But that has to do with, as Eric Trump put it out, you got to come to the negotiating table. It's just he's using this as a tactic, and it's messing with everyone's net worth the world over. Like, that's the truth. Like, that is, and that's not a political statement. I'm just saying, like, that's a matter of fact thing. Like, that's what's happening right here. Here's another post from chart analyst Dom talking about XRP specifically. He said, XRP update, and this is as of 10:46 a.m. Central Time. Someone keeps supporting price on Binance, popping up buy walls under local lows. Coinbase has actually bought more XRP than they sold over the last 24 hours. Buy walls stay intact in the $1.90 range. They just keep defending the $2 range. If Bitcoin snaps $80,000, That would be the true breakdown unless more support keeps popping up. Okay, so at least at the time that I'm recording this, we're holding a couple key levels right here, even though XRP briefly dipped below $2. At least at the time I'm recording this, it was pretty short-lived. Now it's hovering right around $2. So we'll see what happens, but I don't believe for a moment that, like the world is canceled because of this. The world's not canceled. The stock market is going to continue to exist. The idea that this market cycle's over and what happens with global liquidity is no longer going to impact things once the uncertainty is removed. Like, of course it's going to. Outside of this tumult, regular processes are going to take hold as they always do. This is not a time to be fearful. I mean, if I were in a buying mood, like these are the types of days that it makes sense to buy. Like, I'm a huge fan of buying on major capitulation events, and I've seen way worse than this. I've seen way, way, way worse than this in terms of how especially the crypto market, seeing how the crypto market's responding. I've seen way bigger bloodbaths than this. So, but still, like, there's some buying opportunities compared to, if you're long crypto in general, like there's some buying opportunities compared to what we'd seen recently. Everything's in the red. Like, it's a sea of red. Look as I scroll down Live Coin Watch here. That's the top 50 coins. Like, everything's in the red with, I don't know, anything that's in the green. They're probably mostly just stable coins, actually. Even Tether's down 0.3%. Well, how about that? So there you go. USDC down 0.57%. So look, nothing's escaping this effectively. But again, just if you understand that there's always going to be at times craziness when it comes to investing, and that that's not going to persist. I mean, like, really, in order to sell here, you'd have to think the world's going to end in this, that it never rebounds, and then it would make sense, right? But if you actually believe that, then what good is selling going to do? The world's over at that point. You better be a doomsday prepper at that point, and then you'll be fine, right? It's just ridiculous. It's like people, you got to stop responding emotionally like the typical lemming retail investor, because they get wrong-footed all the time, because when it comes to investing, we humans are our own worst enemies. So just be aware of that, and then you decide what's best for you. But I am not freaking out. I'm going to keep holding. I'm excited because I firmly believe that we are still in a bull market for crypto, and the best, most fun part is still going to come. That's my bet. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.